Evening, everyone. Thanks for coming out. We did try to schedule this for Lost Marsh Clubhouse on the second floor, but that was being utilized and rented tonight, and we're not going to take a rental away from the golf course vendor. So we're very happy that you made it up here to the lakefront and our beautiful Hammond Marina. We'd like to say thank you for coming out. We know this is very important to all of you, or you wouldn't be here. We're going to share some good information with you. We're going to be able to take questions, and we're going to be able to share, and we're going to do it as ladies and gentlemen, I'm sure. So with that said, I'm going to turn the microphone over to the mayor, and he's going to give some brief statements, and then we'll move on from there. Thanks, everyone.
Thanks, Milo. Hi, everybody. Good to see so many people out here. We said that we were going to have a public meeting before we unveiled anything, made any decisions, and we are at the point of decision making, and I wanted to come out and fulfill the promise I made to you all in Robertsdale. Before we get started, I want to talk a little bit about the big picture stuff when it comes to the American Rescue Plan and the fact that close to $50 million came to the city of Hammond, not counting the school city, and we're using that for capital development across the city. I'm very proud to report that in the first round that we approved, around 33% of all the money that we approved for the citywide spending was right here in Robertsdale. I'll go through some of the projects that have already taken place or are taking place. And it's $10.5 million of the initial round of ARP, which was, like I said, about 1/3. $4 million is going towards lead remediation for the families that live around Federated Metals in that area that the City of Hammond's Environmental Department came out and tested your yards. If you qualified, you could sign up for a voluntary program where the city would come in and clean out your yard, dig up basically 2 feet of earth, dispose of it, almost like it's radioactive. It's not, but we had to dispose of it in a careful manner. We had to, and it was the most expensive part of that process was disposing of it. But we've done a number of properties at this point. In fact, Ron Novak out there, Hammond Environmental. Ron, could you stand up real quick? Eileen, could you get him the microphone? Ron, could you give me a 30,000 foot level on that project? Ron's been running the project, and how many properties qualified and have participated?
There's about 75 properties within that footprint. Last year, we started late. 12 properties got done, and there'll be 30 properties cleaned up this year. Hopefully, next year, there will be the remaining properties along 121st Street.
Thank you. The federal government is the one that started this project off in Whiting, and Whiting has the same problem that we have in the Robertsdale, in this neighborhood in particular. We decided to take a route that was available to us, which was to pay it off ourselves, instead of applying for Superfund and going to the federal government and waiting on their timeline to clean your properties. We decided to take it up ourselves, and we earmarked, like I said, $4 million of American Rescue Plan money for that endeavor, which obviously is a positive benefit to the Robertsdale part of our community. Another $3.5 million was earmarked for the firehouse on Station 2. I got the fire chief here, who is also a Robertsdale resident. Chief Smith, can you go through real quick particulars about the Station 2 project, where we are in it, where it's going to be located, things of that nature?
So if you're familiar with the station we have now, it's obviously 122nd and Calumet. The new one's going to be, if you can picture the tennis court and then the environmental center, that's the footprint of the station and the parking lot to the south. So the bike trail comes off the bridge, and the bike trail runs along George Lake. The bike trail will have to be just moved, Kevin, just a few feet to the east, right? So the bike trail will move a little bit, but the station, this will be Calumet Avenue. The bridge is over here that you can't see, but the parking lot's here. So this area pretty much encompasses the environmental center and the tennis court.
So the environmental center is already moved, correct?
Yeah. Well, I think they moved out.
Yeah, it's empty. Right.
Yes.
I know, I drove by it the other day. So the environmental center is relocated to Hammond as part of this proposal. The new firehouse is paid for, moving to that location, physically getting closer to the Festival of Lakes grounds for safety reasons, and it's going to be a brand new station, like the one we built in Hessville. And I realize that a lot of us don't get all over the city like I do. Hessville Station 8 is the model for this station. Not only do the firemen love working there, the neighborhood loves it. It's a wide open concept. It's a lot better. When was Station 2 originally built, Chief Smith?
I think it was 1954 or 55.
Yeah, and it's one of our most important stations, and it's one of our smallest and oldest stations, so we're upgrading that massively. Is there going to be any increase in manpower or anything, or is it
Same
gonna...
amount of personnel. Right now, we have a truck and an engine and an ambulance and an ATV that run out of that station. Back when they built the station, the fire trucks were much smaller than they are now. They're a lot bigger. The ambulances, if you guys remember years ago, they looked like a conversion van. Now they're the big box van or the big box trucks. So everything has gotten bigger. Back in the 50s, nobody worked out exercise equipment. This station is going to have a designated workout area. Right now, what they did at Station 2 was they moved all the beds closer together, and there's a weight bench in there, and there's a stair climber, elliptical, other things that they have weights. So this will have a designated workout area when back in the 50s, nobody worked out.
For those in back, we do have 5 chairs available up front if you want to send a few people forward. We do have some more chairs up here, so please feel free to come forward. We have 5 chairs, so thank you very much, Chief. And in ARP Round 1, and keep in mind, this was approved by the Hammond City Council. By the way, while I'm at it, I want to introduce and thank the City Council members in attendance. Of course, you have your host, Councilman Mark Kalwinski. Thank you very much, Councilman, for being here. And Councilwoman at Large, Janet Venez. Thank you very much for being here, Councilwoman. This Round 1 was approved by the Hammond City Council, signed by the mayor. Also includes $3 million for the development of Clark High School. I want to give a history lesson on where we've been as an administration with Clark High School and talked about, it's been reported on, and I'm not saying that's reason to do this or not, but this has never been a real secret that my administration, myself in particular, has been interested in those fields, particularly for the development of single-family homes. Going back to when Walter Watkins was superintendent of schools, which is the first time in my administration that we actually spoke to the school city about developing this piece of property, which is about 16 acres. While Clark High School was still in existence, there was an original plan considered to move the Clark High School athletic fields to Wolf Lake Park, across the street. The City of Hammond approached the School City of Hammond regarding the acquisition of the Clark High School fields for the purpose of residential development on the Clark Field site. That plan, we drew up plans where the baseball field, the softball field, the football field would locate in the new park at the time, which was the newly expanded Wolf Lake Park. We were going to build new fields there. It turned into a costly endeavor because, School City wanted turf, they wanted nice fields. Of course, at that time, we just built Morton High School, so we were thinking open-minded that it would probably be turf fields, and we started doing math and realizing to move those fields across the street was going to be quite the expensive endeavor. And as it turns out, it's probably a good thing we didn't do that, because little did we know, 7 years later, the school city would close Clark High School, and we would have these brand new fields located across the street for millions of dollars had we gone through with that proposal. But that's the first time my administration spoke to the school city about acquiring that piece of property for the purpose of economic development, which is single-family homes. Next, in 2020, the school city of Hammond approached the civil city of Hammond. This time they come to us to acquire park property north of Hammond High School, east of the Hammond Civic Center, for the purpose of constructing new athletic fields. For those of you that haven't been close to City Hall to see the new Hammond High School, Hammond Central, they have a brand new football field, turf, with a track around it, located right behind the Civic Center. If you walk out of the Civic Center's east exit, you'll walk right into the football field, basically right now. Hammond and the School City Hammond agreed to a land swap involving the Clark Fields and the Civic Center property. So we swapped it. This did not run afoul of the law. Now, people naturally ask us what's going on with Clark High School, what's going on with Gavitt High School. There's a number of empty schools around the city, and I answer the same way every time, is I want to develop Clark High School just as bad as you want it developed. However, the state of Indiana passed a law that says that School City of Hammond, well, any school city cannot get rid of any of their schools without offering it to a charter school for $1. So let's think about this. City of Hammond, we built Clark High School. It's worth something. I don't know how much it's worth. Gavitt High School also. It's worth something to somebody. Is that $1 million? Is that $500,000? Is it $2 million? I don't know, but it's worth something. Now, the School City of Hammond, if they want to develop Clark High School, has to offer it to a charter school first for $1. And then a charter school will come in and steal their students to go to the new charter school. So naturally, the School City of Hammond doesn't want to move forward. They don't want this to get developed because they have to offer it for $1, and somebody may buy it for $1. Now, there's nothing in that law. I have good lawyers in this administration, and we know there's something particular about that law, is it doesn't say anything about the parking facilities. We don't have to offer the parking facilities for $1, but you have to offer the school itself. So, naturally, Clark High School is easy to dissect the parking facilities because it's located a couple blocks away from the school itself, which is this deal that we made with the school city in 2020. For those of you wondering about how this affects Gabbett, same way. Gabbett High School, I'm working with Purdue Northwest right now on a proposal where Purdue Northwest and the city of Hammond would team up and take, for those of you familiar with Gabbett, most of the parking lot all the way to the sound wall. So school city still has to offer Gabbett High School up for $1, and if somebody acquires it for $1 and they want a couple thousand students to go there, I guess it's possible they just have to walk there, right? This is sort of where the game we're playing with Clark High School right now. We have to. I would rather just buy it, demolish it, and start what Clark High School is going to become, but we can't because of this dumb law that Indiana passed that we're dealing with, okay? So here we are. We did a land swap behind the Civic Center and the football field complex for Clark High School fields in 2020. 2021, finalization of plans for a new fire station number 2 south of the current station and completion of the subdivision and land acquisition process. This includes the termination of the lease at the Environmental Center to allow for its demolition for the new fire station, which is what we talked about earlier. So the 3 proposals you see presented to you right now, we intentionally did a couple things. The big red triangle you see at the bottom is the firehouse. Dean will be my Vanna White today. That is the new firehouse, okay? We intentionally left everything north of that blank. It's going to be developed, not right now. We want to talk to you all first. So as you'll notice, it says future development. We're talking about what that future development entails. I think personally, it definitely should have commercial. Sort of like what they did in Whiting is how I'd love to see it. Something with retail on the bottom and residential on top. Something along those lines. And by the way, I would like to live there. What a beautiful view. If you're along Calumet Avenue, you're looking at Wolf Lake every day. And it's beautiful sunsets at Wolf Lake. So I think that that's something that we're going to have another community meeting for down the road. So what this meeting is about is the other 16 acres. Is not the blue part and not the red part. It's everything else. So we have 3 proposals that we presented to you. All 3 of them are proposals for new housing and different types of new housing. One is option number 1, which is just single family homes. And option number 1, it is 30 new single family home lots that'll come out with 30 single family homes, 0 townhomes, 0 cluster homes, 1.1 acres of planned green space with 5.62 acres of future development. That's option number 1. Option number 2 is an option with single family homes and townhome mix. And you'll see here 30 total residential units, 26 of them single family homes, 14 townhomes that are located down towards the new firehouse, 0 cluster homes, just short of 1 acre of green space, 4 acres of future development. Then we have option number 3, which is an idea of cluster homes. We see these in locations throughout Northwest Indiana. Even places like Briar Ridge has things like this, these types of homes. Highland, Munster, where you have 36 total residential units, 24 of which are single family homes, 0 of them are townhomes in option 3, 12 are cluster homes, planned green space 1.33 acres, future development 3.57 acres. This is why we wanted to come talk to you. This is where we are. The thinking is we want to make a single family neighborhood with new construction and home development in the city of Hammond. We've done this in other parts of the city, and it's been extremely successful. And it will be extremely successful in Robertsdale also. We have high standards that we want to maintain, and we want good, strong families to live in this neighborhood. So Kevin, do you want to say anything about this? I know that we dealt with this with Delo Parkway. We dealt with this in Hessville.
Sure, Mayor. I'd be happy to. Good evening, everyone.
Kevin's also the Port Authority attorney. He'll be helping coordinate this project.
So just to give a little bit of a background on what happened on Delo Parkway so everybody understands the process, if they're here interested saying like, oh, I'd love to live in lot 18 or lot 24 or whatever. The process will eventually be once the infrastructure is in. And just a note, I think Dean's going to cover this, so I won't cover it. The process that we did at Delo Parkway is this. The redevelopment commission would have the property appraised, and the properties would then go to auction. That's what we did at Delo Parkway. There were 6 lots there. They were appraised, and Africa Tarver, who's the executive director of planning and development, is here tonight as well. Her department then advertised and listed the properties, and they literally went to an open air auction like this. We'd all come in a room and everyone would bid. The exciting thing, I think, about that project, and the mayor I know was just as excited as we all were, was that every one of those lots at Delo Parkway ended up going for more than the initial value. There was actually a bidding process, and as you can see, there are I think 2 completed homes and 2 beautiful homes that are under construction. So that would be the same process that would happen on this acreage.
Thanks, Kevin. Dean, and we are going to open it up to questions. I just wanted to make sure we got everything covered first. Hi. This is city engineer, who also a Robert Cell resident, Dean Button.
Thank you, Mayor. Appreciate it. Welcome to all my neighbors. Thank you for coming. I do appreciate the opportunity to address you this evening. Just a few points that we wanted to make sure you were aware of. You know, we try to make sure that we gave as much opportunity to access to the bike trail system, right? So that was an important aspect of the project. The other key focus is there's a large transmission main that runs down Davis Avenue, so we have to sort of respect that, and so we've got that in the right of way, and that's key to how this property can be developed. So we had to make a roadway basically in this alignment, and we've sort of cleared an area towards the south to bring that water, to leave that water main in place, because relocating that water main would be very expensive. We're trying to respect the wetland area, give access to the green spaces that are around, and of particular note, we made extension of development off of Lake Avenue that sort of matches or parallels the homes that exist there to the east on Lake Avenue. And really, that's sort of the highlight reel. Our consultants, Rich Piazza and Randy Peterson from Abbenmarsh, are here to help us answer any questions that we might have.
I'd like to introduce Hammond's Chief of Staff, Phil Taiwan. I know Phil's been helping a lot with this project as well. Thank you.
Good evening, everyone. Just 2 quick points. One is, because this property was previously owned by the school city of Hammond, it was not producing any tax dollars on behalf of the city. And obviously, most of you know, if these homes are built, taxes will be paid for each of these homes, and it lessens some of the burden on the remaining, all of us who are, if you live in Hammond, you're currently taxpayers in the city of Hammond already. So that's definitely a positive. One other thing, I was in economic development for 10 years prior to taking this position. And one thing I could tell you is that when you're attracting new businesses and companies to the city, one thing they always look at is what new housing stock do you have for us to attract the employees that we're looking for, especially right now in a very competitive environment for employees. There's very few businesses you drive by where you don't see a sign up that says, we're looking to hire A, B, and C. So this type of project actually has that impact in that it helps us attract new companies to the city as well. So I just wanted to make those 2 points.
Thank you, Phil. I want to make, before we turn it over to the audience, I want to point out that this is going to be the largest new subdivision in Hammond in decades, and will strengthen the tax base, bring in new families who love Hammond but want new construction. The need for new residential housing is the single biggest housing issue we hear about when we hear people say they're leaving the city. I need a bigger house, and Hammond doesn't have enough new houses, and this is going to modernize our housing stock. So that's the purpose, that's the intention of why we're going into this. That's why we earmarked $3 million of ARP money towards it. So anyway, I want to introduce Eileen Ibarra, who's Hammond's Special Events Coordinator. We're just going to run this like a mayor's night out, if you don't mind. I'd like to remind you we're airing this on Go Hammond TV. It's not live, it'll be aired later, but so if you could wait for Eileen with the microphone for that reason, we'd appreciate it. So, with that. Oh, we are live? Oh, never mind, we are live. So if you want to watch it again, you got that option. So.
Hi, I just had a question.
Yes, ma'am.
Could you explain the, what are they, cluster homes?
Yes, ma'am.
Because I'm not familiar with that.
I agree with you. I needed that explanation myself. So, Dean, or you, or Rich, or Russ? Yeah.
So,
Or Randy?
you know,
Yeah.
I mean, the definition that Richie just handed me was, as the name implies, Cluster housing consists of a close. So as the name implies, cluster housing consists of closely grouped homes. They are usually smaller than the average size dwelling built on downsized lots. They can be arranged around cul-de-sacs, as you can see here, in T formations and even along straight streets. So the idea, the idea that Avonmarsh presented to us, and as Mayor had mentioned, that these sorts of housing developments are happening around Northwest Indiana and across the nation, is that it gives opportunities to have sort of a community, a unity in that area, right? So for example, what was suggested is that maybe a young family, a startup family, and their parents who want to live close together could have an opportunity to do that and sort of have a family unit all sort of close together, but be in separate dwellings, and then have the opportunity to spend time as a family unit.
So
close
this is
by.
like a shared wall between multiple units.
Yeah, I mean, it's sort of like the paired housing that we have on New York Avenue, but in a manner in which it's sort of, you open your door and you're surrounded by your community right there.
By the way, just because we're presenting it to you doesn't mean one or the other is my favorite. We're just giving you options that we were given, okay? So it doesn't mean that we're pushing anything. I want to see how you guys feel about the different options presented, so.
I know you spoke about the idea that these lots will go up to auction, that when, whatever that other development was, I forget the name of it, went up, that a lot of them.
Pedalo Parkway, yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah.
A lot of them went for greater than the appraisal. Is there concern or thought about this development regarding affordability of these lots for people, especially in the Robertsdale, Whiting area, that may want to live here but might be starting to be priced out
Yes,
of
ma'am.
the
Great
houses
question.
in this area?
Thank you. I mean, that's one of the main reasons 3 different options like this are presented, because I imagine, you know, if it was option 1, it'd be higher price single family homes, which would be harder. And a lot of times seniors want to downsize and get out of a house and get into more of a townhome setting, which is why option 2 has the townhome setting and option 3 with the cluster homes. I think that was the thought process going in, ma'am. I appreciate the question. It's a great question. So. That's it.
Hi, I've got
Hey,
a
Linda.
couple questions. Am I limited?
Sure.
Okay, the first one is, what's the approximate size of the lots, the single-family lots?
So they're greater than the minimum standard, which if I am correct, is 6,000 square foot per lot. It's greater than the minimum standard of 6,000 square feet.
Okay. Another question is, you mentioned that the homes would be nice because they'd have a view, but if you put 2 or 3 story development on Calumet Avenue, then they
No view
lose
of-
the view of
Right.
the lake and the pavilion. So
That's a great point. No, I mean,
when do you think that you will know what you're going to do with Calumet Avenue?
you know, great question, Linda. I appreciate the question. I was thinking the same thing when I first saw this, is you might buy the home and think that you have this great view of Wolf Lake, and then we come along and build townhouses right in front of you, which is a great point you make. So definitely future development, that area. I just thought, you know, this is obviously something we want to work out with the community, which is why we're here. And I thought instead of, you know, taking 2 bites at the apple, well, I guess it is taking 2 bites at the apple, is come out first, talk about the housing component, and then we'll work on the development up front. But I think everybody that buys a lot, which is basically off the extended Davis Avenue, should realize that their view of Wolf Lake will probably be limited, whereas the view of the north basin of George Lake would be much more clear. But that's an excellent point, and quite frankly, I think if there were townhomes or some type of development, like I mentioned, the one in Whiting along Calumet, that would be the selling point for them, is your patio will basically be looking at Wolf Lake. But that's an excellent point you bring up. I appreciate it.
I think a key point too, Mayor, is that we have to have some transition between Calumet Avenue and the residential area, right? So we're looking at having that's what we did with these other 2 alternatives. We needed a transition from more of the commercial area to the residential area. And that's sort of what this provides. You could transition from the heavy, you know, greater speed Calumet Avenue over to the residential area and give them some protection.
By the way, thank you to everybody for being here. I appreciate it. sign of a strong community when everybody shows up like this. So thank you all to everybody that came out. So, hi.
Will there be alleys between the houses on those streets?
Doesn't look like it.
No, ma'am.
Yes. So you're going to be putting your trash out in front on this one, in the recycling. Thank you.
Okay.
Basements? Have we decided that?
I don't think we've decided that.
I
at
mean,
this
I would
point.
prefer basements personally. I mean, as long as the water table is not so high that it eliminates
Yes.
the possibility.
I was just going to mention that I think at least what we learned on Delo Parkway, Mylan, is that it all depends on where the water table is, and they've built like kind of extended crawl spaces, which are common throughout the country, like in Texas and other places where the water table's high.
The goal would be to have basements.
I'm going to ask you a question, Mayor. I already know the answer, but what's the highest zoned use for property? It's R1, right?
Yeah.
So, look, a couple of things. The people in Whiting and Robertsdale, there are plenty of starter homes available. There are plenty of rental properties available. What isn't available are large single-family homes. So single-family development would make the most sense because that's what's most sorely needed. You yourself said, and Phil said, that people come and ask all the time about single-family housing. We don't need any more rental properties here, that's for sure. And we really don't need any more starter homes because there's plenty available. As far as Calumet Avenue and the comment about future commercial development, one thing the pandemic has proven is that brick and mortar commercial space is largely going away. It's becoming more and more difficult to rent. You have some property right over here that is basically being used as second tier use, the outlots over at Walmart. I think you've got a dialysis center and something else over there. They've got a couple of vacancies. So I don't think
They got a
there's a
Starbucks
need.
over there too.
What?
I mean, they got a Starbucks over there too.
No,
so,
absolutely.
yeah.
But my point is that commercial, there's some limits on commercial. And I think that you'd be better off long-term focusing on residential development, single family, okay? I think it makes a lot of
Thank
sense. It's gonna improve the community vastly.
I appreciate it, Tom.
One of the things that happened in Whiting, and everybody that lives in Whiting Robertsdale knows, that as Whiting started to build all the scattered site homes, and as they started to build on Center Street, and they're going to expand Center Street, which is my next point, we have to compete also with what Whiting's doing. So Whiting is going to expand Center Street this year. They're going to add another 12 homes over there. My understanding is that those homes are pretty much already spoken for, those lots. So we need to compete with what Whiting's doing because it's two cities but one community. It's one, and it's also one housing market.
Yep.
So for us to do single-family residential would make the most sense. It's
Thank
also
you.
the
So you like
least-
option one?
it's the least disruptive to the community too, because you have less traffic but more value. It makes a lot more sense.
Thank you. Appreciate it. We have a lot of questions over here. Yeah. Hi.
Hi. Right now, Stanton and Davis are one way, and then you have 122nd Street. How is all this new housing going to affect us? Are we going to keep the one-way streets?
Good question.
You know?
Dean?
So you probably heard in the last couple of years, the City of Hammond hired a world-renowned urban planner, Jeff Spack, to look at our downtowns and to try to see what it would make to make communities more walkable. And his initiative is sort of to push us to withdraw away from one-way streets, to make these areas
We haven't
more-
made any decision, though.
We have made no final
We
decision.
shouldn't talk about it if we made no decision at a community meeting, no offense, so.
Yeah, I mean,
Right.
so at this point, none of the
I don't want
existing-
anybody to think there's speculation about that if there hasn't been any discussion on it, so.
So there are the existing streets. We have no intention of making any
At this
changes
point.
this time, but it makes the most sense that these be two-way streets
Yeah.
in the subdivision.
But that would be a whole separate community meeting in the subdivision.
In the subdivision.
Okay.
Yeah. I mean, so this is the concept, right? There's still a lot more planning and engineering to be done on the project.
Thank you. Thank you. Hi.
Hey,
Oh, Councilman Woodrat with you, I'm sorry. Hi.
feeding off of what Tom said, the word I liked that he used was the least disruptive to the community. So what you're doing is disrupting the community. I don't know that you asked the community if we wanted any of this. There should be an option 4 that says we're gonna make this a park. I just can't figure out why you would take this green space and want to develop it into commercial and residential. I just don't understand it. It's between two parks.
Okay.
You are going to put commercial development adjacent to Wolf Lake. You're gonna put commercial development adjacent to George Lake. And you want people to move in that aren't even citizens yet. We're the citizens. Those are future citizens, maybe. I don't know who you're trying to satisfy, why you're not asking us what we want versus saying, this is your choices and that's it.
Okay, I appreciate your advice.
So I still want to make the point that there should be an option for that this be a park.
Okay, thank you, sir. Councilman Mark needed to say something, so. Hold on 2 seconds.
I understand the lot size is 6,000 square feet or more. Is there going to be a mandate about the square footage of a house going on a lot? Does it have to be so large or so small, or what are the parameters for that?
Thanks, Councilman. I can tell you that for, just to give, I guess, a historical example again, Deedle Parkway did require a certain amount of square feet. I can't remember if it was 2,500 or 3,000, and it required an attached garage and some other things. And I believe that there would also be covenant, what was it? Brick or stone construction, at least on one side. Things like that, things that you see down in South County a lot. And we would probably mirror something similar to that that would be commensurate with the lot size and things like that.
So my follow-up question would be then, for seniors who are trying to downsize, 3,000, 2,500 seems large.
That was for Deedle Parkway. I don't want to imply that that was for this,
so we
this subdivision.
We have not set
That's correct.
yet.
That's correct.
I see.
We wanted to meet with the community, obviously, Councilman, and we promised we'd meet with the community, and here we are. And I realize, sir, that there's people out there that feel like you. I do understand that, and I appreciate you.
And so there should be, if we have to have houses, there should be more green space than there. That's
So you would say, like, one of the options with fewer lots and more green space?
especially along the bike trail.
Okay.
You've nurtured that and developed it.
I love the
into a
bike trail.
nature-
I do.
You've told me that.
Mhm.
You've developed it into a nature area.
Mhm.
And this just smacks the very
Okay.
opposite. It's a roundabout.
Thank
I
you,
don't know
sir.
why you take this, but we need more green space,
Okay,
definitely.
I appreciate it. I'm glad. And by the way, we haven't poured one bag of concrete yet. This is all very theoretical still, so I appreciate your advice, okay? Yeah. Hi, sir.
Mayor, is there a time frame in regard to Clark High School and how long a charter school has to purchase it?
Great question. I'm going to have my corporate counsel answer that, if you don't mind, sir.
So the long and short of it is we don't know, and the reason is because the law states that whenever a school is closed, that the school city or the school town, in our case, the school city, has so much time to offer it up for $1 to charter schools. The School City Hammond, along with a couple other school corporations throughout the state, I believe one's in Tippecanoe County and one's also closer to Indianapolis, are fighting that law. Kind of for the reasons the mayor said. Tax dollars built those schools, and they're worth something, and that money should go back into the community instead of just to a charter school for $1. So while that lawsuit pens, I think it's pending in Lake County, it got moved up here, there's no good answer for that, because they're trying to declare that law unconstitutional, which would allow the school city the freedom to either continue to use it or to put it on the market.
Thank you for the question, sir.
Question on Clark High School. You mentioned about taking the parking. The parking along 119th Street is starting to look pretty bad. The school city's been called a couple of times about cutting back the weeds that are growing. There's also a lot that sits right across the street from Ron at 120th and Stanton that used to be residential. Has the city thought about acquiring that first off? About those properties?
No, we haven't thought about it.
It might be something to take a look at.
I know we facilitated that transaction in the first place, back when it first happened. I was part of it. I think you were part of it too, come to think of it.
Actually,
Yeah.
I was.
Right.
And one other thing, we, as far as open space and green space, per capita, Whiting Robertsdale actually has more green space than any community in the state of Indiana.
Yeah, thank you.
And you know, it's a little disingenuous to talk about homes, because I know somebody who moved from one home on Davis to Superior because he wanted a larger house. And so I think there's a lot of people that would like larger homes.
Thank you, I appreciate it. You know, I'd like to point out, and I appreciate the gentleman's concerns about the park, I do. And across the street, I'd like to point out that it was my mission in life when I became your mayor to acquire everything north of 129th Street on the west side of Calumet. And I think we've acquired everything but one business, and we turned it into a parkland, and it's gorgeous. I think we'd all agree. It's one of the best parks in the city. You live across the street from it. I'm so jealous of you, because when I ride my bike, I ride to that park, and it's a long way. So,
And we appreciate that.
thank you, sir.
Continue the momentum.
Agree with you.
And to just say something against what Tom said.
Yeah, you guys can argue outside after if you want.
We may have a lot of park space, but I will argue that we probably have the most industry.
We do.
So we deserve that park
I
space
agree,
because
sir.
we
I don't necessarily agree with you.
have the industry.
I think your idea about, it was a very solid idea. It's like, hey, we can compromise, you know, maybe you don't need 30, maybe you can only have 25, and it's a little bit more green space. I think that's a good recommendation. But I'll be honest with you, I've wanted to develop this with single family homes for a decade as your mayor, and I've been chomping at the bit, and ARP came along and gave us this amazing opportunity to do great things. And I understand you may not feel it's a great idea, and I appreciate your opinion. That's the thing that's tough about being mayor, is there's a lot of opinions, and I'm trying to navigate through them, okay? That's why we're here. Nothing's been decided. We haven't done one thing moving forward. I promised you we would make decisions until we talk to you, and that's why we're here. So, yes, ma'am.
Is this going to be a planned unit development?
No, ma'am.
I have a few more questions. Why do you think it's desirable for these expensive homes to be near a fire station?
Depends if you're having a heart attack or not.
Well, no, I mean, there's fires, the casino gets the fire trucks going to them all the time.
Mhm.
So what I'm saying is, yeah, you got the ambulance next door, you know, that's not my point. My
Right.
point is that these sirens are gonna be going off all the time, 24 hours a day. That's my point.
Okay.
Which is, to me, a less desirable. The other thing is, it's near wetlands and wildlife, and the sirens are going on. There's a lot of lights going on, and you know, the wildlife is flying back and forth. So that's very disruptive to the wildlife. It's a step backward.
So I take it you're not going to be bidding on the lots, right?
Okay. Now the other question is on drainage. When they put in the overpass, they put in a big pipe. The water is draining from the overpass and maybe even the road into George Lake. When you have that kind of drainage, you're disrupting the water levels of George Lake, which is a protected wetland, which was filled in. Part of it was filled in for the overpass, and the DNR allowed that. So my question is about drainage. This is, when you had Clark Field, all the rain is going down into and soaking into the ground. That's not happening anymore. You have solid buildings there, roofing and parkways and roads. So where is all this water going? You're maintaining it's going to go in the sewers and there's going to be no flooding, but is there going to be other ways of draining it, you know, into George Lake? Will there be drainage into George Lake?
All right,
is
thank
what
you for
I'm
the
asking.
question. Before Dean gets to it, I'd like to point out, there's probably, this is a 16-acre parcel. I would dare say it's got 6 acres of concrete poured on it right now. The parking lot's it's a concrete jungle. So if somebody's going to build a house there, they're not going to build it on concrete, especially if they want a basement and a backyard with a garden. They're going to bust it up, and it's going to become something that could absorb stormwater. I'd be interested to see how much concrete's there now and how much concrete would be there after, because I have a feeling that if I was building a house there, I'd bust the concrete up and make a beautiful yard and a beautiful garden. And so anyway, Dean.
So as many might know, the Robertsdale area is 100% separated. That means the sanitary sewer flows separate from the storm sewer, and there are separate storm water stations peppered throughout the community, and so there's no risk of any water being discharged into George Lake.
Oh, we got one back there, okay. She's working her way over.
Hi, you mentioned that this was an opportunity to retain Hammond residents. During the bidding process, is there a priority given to Hammond residents in that process, or is
Good
it an
question.
open call to anyone across the state or across state lines?
Thank you. Before Kevin comes in, I went to when we bid out DeLo Parkway lots, and I was so proud to be Hammond's mayor that day. There was literally bidding wars for a couple of the lots, and I thought that was, to be the mayor and to see people like bidding each other higher and higher, and that was a very happy day for me. Kevin, you ran the DeLo Parkway process.
I helped too with Dave Westland, who's the attorney for the Redevelopment Commission, and Dave Westland will probably be assisting Africa and her staff in this as well. And to answer your question, the statute does not allow preference regarding the auction, and so it does have to be offered publicly, and anyone, of course, is available to bid. And hopefully there'll be people that want to stay in Hammond that already live in Hammond. In fact, an interesting story, Mayor, on the way over today, I got a call from a police lieutenant who asked about this meeting, and he said, I have 2 young officers who are so excited to stay in the city and want to buy a lot there. How do they do it? So I explained the process to them too. So there's obviously some excitement about it, and that would be the process. But the short answer is no, there'd be no preference for Hammond residents.
If you went with the homes and we auction it off and you get, say, a contractor that buys up several lots, who's going to have to pay for some of the infrastructure around there? An example is 122nd Street is falling apart. Now, will that be the taxpayers of Hammond that are going to have to pay to upgrade that street? Will we require the contractor to at least pay a portion of that to upgrade that street? That street's only going to get worse as we increase traffic. Secondly, in that particular area, parking is already a premium. Most of the older homes down there don't have driveways. Most of them are limited with garages. Are we going to do something if we increase that much more people in that area? Are we going to be able to say it's resident-only parking now? Are we going to allow everybody to just park there? And how are you going to deal with all the extra traffic?
Well, I'll have Dean cover 122nd in a second, but I'd like to point out that all 30 of the homes in this situation have a driveway, and I imagine a garage attached, which is good news. So it shouldn't exacerbate any type of parking problem we have, sir. And if it does, then obviously we'll be dealing with it along with you. But that is a good point about this, and I appreciate you bringing that up. Dean wanted to talk about 122nd, which is the first part of your question.
So we worked with the district councilman, and Councilman Mark had put together a list of projects he wanted to see done this year. And as you know, Mayor and the City Council put together a capital improvements board to be able to do transformative projects. But we still have our resurfacing program, and 122nd is scheduled to be resurfaced this year. So you should see brand new asphalt. It's not a reconstruct, right? It's not complete reconstruct with curbs and gutters and all that goes with a reconstruction, but we are resurfacing 122nd, so that you'll see an improvement on that.
Thank you. I'd like to recognize Councilman Dan Spitali and say thank you for being here. Thank you, Councilman. All right, Eileen, way in the back.
Yes,
Hi.
you described the cluster home to people. How about the townhomes? Would they be upstairs, downstairs, ranch style,
Great
square
question.
footage, attached garage, detached garage?
My mind originally pictured the townhomes being along Calumet. That was how my mind was working originally. And then because we started getting argumentative even within the administration about what Calumet Avenue should look like, that's when we came up with the 3 different options for the neighborhood that we're talking about now, ma'am. So in my mind, I think townhomes are multiple levels. That's the way I picture it. It doesn't mean it has to be that way. And like I said, we've committed to nothing. This is why we're here, to talk to you all and to see what we like the best and to take further steps after this. So, but the way I pictured this development originally in my mind was Calumet Avenue would be townhome, 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 with like an upstairs that you could go up and you could look at Wolf Lake from upstairs. But going back to Linda's point earlier, if we do that, it's a wall between this new neighborhood we're building and Wolf Lake, which is another tough issue to get around. So, hi, Dan. She's back.
Oh,
Surprise.
yeah, I did have 2 things. One of them mentioned the townhomes and the cluster homes. Are those going to be rentals or owned?
Owned.
Okay, that's what I thought.
Yeah.
I think there might have been
You know
a
where I'm
question.
sitting always.
That's what I thought. There might have been a question about,
you know, they said we don't need any more rentals or that. So I
Right.
just wanted to
We
make sure.
we do have parts of the city where we're looking at apartments. It's certainly, it's not in the first. It's right now downtown Hammond, close to the station. There's it's a market rate rental situation downtown, but not in the first.
And the other, it's just more of a comment, goes back to what Tom had said about option one. I mean, personally, I'm a Robertsdale resident. I don't see what kind of commercial development we need along there that we don't already have between the Whiting area. You've got Strack, 7-Eleven, and I mean, look at some of the places we have. We've got smoke shops that come in all over. So I'm not sure that we need development there. However, if you don't do commercial development, that leaves a whole nother potential row of single family homes there that you can build, and maybe like they do in South County, you put a little berm or you put something so their backyards don't open up right onto Calumet. But that would give you an option again for single family homes, maybe even for some ranch homes for seniors or them who might want to go into a ranch.
Okay.
I don't want I don't want a big family home for myself, but I obviously like the Robertsdale area.
Right. Thank you. Appreciate it. Councilman?
Thank you. To piggyback on Diane's idea, it's true, a lot of communities going south along Calumet and the boulevard build grass berms, put evergreens up to shield the neighborhood from the noise of the vehicles and to create a green area to look at versus cars and trucks passing by. So I think that's a really good idea versus commercial too. And the other question that I would have is, will there be a public sidewalk line going along all these streets and a parkway on the other side of the sidewalk to the curb, or will there not be any sidewalk on the public way?
It all needs to be programmed, Councilman. We'll program it as it comes forward. Again, we're just trying to get to the point where we get some feedback from the community. I will say during our review with the consultants, we talked about berms as an option for separation. And in some cases, some of the green space areas could accommodate that.
Is there, never mind. Because if I open this can of worms, I was going to talk about the development along Calumet, but yes, sir.
Hello. First of all, I want to thank my friend Dave over there for pointing out that some of us don't really want any more development, but since the decision has been made and you guys are practical people, you got to do what you got to do. I like option one if you're going to do anything, single family homes. As far as that future development, the notion of open space, it's not just green space, it's open space. I mean, when you drive down Calumet Avenue, which we all do, and I ride my bike down there, the open, breezy air. Now, I just want you to know, yesterday it hit 101 degrees at Midway Airport. Now, that's the urban heat island effect. It only hit 97 at Gary, and it hit 96 at Lansing, okay? And at 10 o'clock at night, it was 93 degrees at Midway Airport, whereas it was 88 degrees at Gary, and it was like 85 at Lansing. The point being is, you have to look at the city of Hammond as a biosphere. And every time you do a development, you have to counter that with X amount of green space. So for example, you have a stretch from the old Vogels, which is the Lever Brothers employee area, to Calumet Avenue along Indianapolis Boulevard. That stretch, that could be made into green space and connected to Forsyth Park. So you can offset some of the development by additional green space. So the net biosphere is zero. The net development is zero. I appreciate your comment. That was an intelligent comment about looking at the footprint of Clark's parking lot, and you got the track out there, plus you got the current fire station. So yeah, you already have asphalt out there and concrete. You're absolutely right. So it's looking at it scientifically and saying, we want to offset any development with green space or open space. And ma'am, I don't agree with you. We don't need more houses and more development in there. We like it open. I tell you, I ride my bike every day out there. The one thing that I could tell you, when you go on a bike trail down by Wolf Lake, it's about 10 degrees cooler. When I get into Robertsdale, I live on Davis, man, I could feel the heat coming off of everything. So it's cooler out there. It's cooler, and that's what we want. I just want to share my opinion, but I do like option one if we're going to do anything. Thank you,
sir. Thanks for the question, or thanks for the comment.
Could I say something, Mayor? I just want to respond to this gentleman that mentioned, why aren't you thinking about us? And I'll tell you, we are thinking about residents of Hammond, because we've had people come to our department, we have community development, and we hear from families that say, I had to move out of Hammond because I didn't have opportunities like this. There was no place where I can build a new home. It's very few. We're looking at this type of opportunity, although smaller, in all sections of the city, in Central, on the southern part. So I think you got to keep in mind, there are families in Hammond that are currently here that want this opportunity, but they currently don't have it. And just the last point, I know commercial space could, that's a concern probably for everybody here. I think back to a long time ago to when my parents used to take me to Vogel's or Phil Schmidt's or Specia's, if that's how you pronounce it correctly. And they become like a community gathering spot for an area. So I don't think of commercials like this, there's traffic everywhere and everything else. I think of it as like a place where you're meeting up with some of your neighbors and having a bite to eat and stuff like that. So I just want to say there's two sides to this. Also, I don't know if you mentioned it, Mayor, per capita, City of Hammond has the most bike trail in the entire state of Indiana, no matter what city or town you are. So we focus on quality of place probably more than most. So I just want to bring that up.
Thanks.
I just have a question about the auctioning of the lots in your prior developments. How many of those lots went to contractors and how many went to personal residents?
Thank you.
0 contractors, 6 individuals.
There was only 6, keep in mind. Okay, but how about Parish View?
I don't, Africa might have to mention.
Africa, do you know?
Africa, you want to come on up?
Did any contractors buy Parish View? I don't think. It's all single family homes, right? We built it, that's right. We built, sold, that. So the one in Huntsville, the city of Hammond, we laid the utilities, subdivided it, built the first house, then somebody would buy it and we'd use the money to buy the next and then build the second house, and we did the whole development like that. And it worked. It took 5-6 years though, but we got through it. Hi.
Hi, just a suggestion. I
Yes,
live on
ma'am.
the 2100 block of Staten, and when you decide to rework the sewer system, you're going to really have to engineer it properly, because when we have a heavy downfall of rain, I have a lake in front of my house that reaches up to the stairs.
Okay.
So if you're going to add some more housing a block away, you're going to really have to re-engineer all that sewer system.
Jack still here? Hey Jack, how's it going? Hey, is there any way you can get to the 2100 block of Stanton and send your crew out there to shoot that storm sewer?
Sure can. It'll be done tomorrow morning.
Just to make sure. Maybe you have a collapsed storm sewer. If that happens, then the rain water will come out and.
Both sides flow in the center of the street.
Okay, we'll check it out tomorrow.
Even on our sidewalks are sinking.
Okay. I'm sorry. You might have an issue, and I appreciate you bringing it up. And Jack's crew, they have a camera that could go into the street and see if there's any collapsed sewage. So if we do, we can put it on Dean's radar. Thank you for bringing it up. Councilman should be right back. Okay. Hi.
Hi, Mayor. I just wanted to say I've been a resident for 45 years. I'm also a city employee, and I will tell you that one of the reasons that my husband and I have talked about moving before is because of new residents, a bigger home for our family. So I think that's what drives people. I know it would drive us if we weren't been lifelong residents or also city employees. So I think it's a great opportunity for the residents here and new people. Number 1 is my choice.
Thank you. Appreciate it. When you get a chance, could you come back up to the councilman also? Work your way here. Thanks. We'll be right back, sir. Hi, ma'am.
Hi. I love Plan 1. I
Thank
love
you.
the family residence. I'd love to see something, if it ends up where you choose townhomes or cluster homes, that people aren't going to buy them and rent them out, as a homeowner and use it as rental property.
Agree
That
with
would
you.
kind of take away from that
Kevin?
community.
Yeah, I totally, we're on the same 100% page. Like, I'm about single family homes. My whole administration's been about that. And I know where you're coming from, and I understand your fears, and I want you to know we think very similarly.
And
okay?
I know that this isn't going to be something to be done overnight, but in the meantime, Clark Field looks like
Yes, ma'am.
horrible. It's
I know.
despicable. Is there something that can be done to kind of start the progress of getting rid of some of that stuff?
Hey, Jim,
Make it look
are you
better?
here still? Jim, the head of the Parks Department? Hey, look at that, you're right in front of me. Jim's the head of the Parks Department. Could we get a crew out there, some crew, do you mind? The Clark High School football field, I imagine you're talking about.
Mayor.
Oh, hey, man.
Yeah, hi.
Look at that, Port Authority.
Well, it sort of seems that the Port Authority takes over when property becomes either vacant or open space. And right now, we have 33 properties we cut. Clark Athletic Fields will make 34.
Thank you.
So we've started doing that.
Sweetness.
No.
34.
It's, thank you. Yes, yes. Walter Payton, love him to death. Thank you. But it's not a good number for the amount of staff we have.
If we're going to add another field, let's make it a big one. So.
You just did. The bleachers?
But I mean, we're going to have to do that eventually, ma'am. I mean, obviously, when we go through this project, I promise you, relief is on the way. And once we get through and working with you all, and then if we decide one of the plans is the one you want us to work on, maybe we'll come back at you with a couple more, you know, because I thought your idea was, I thought it was a really good idea.
Mayor, if I could just follow up on answering the lady's question regarding the townhomes and cluster homes. So, well, I should say this: if you were at any of the meetings with the mayor, you heard him loud and clear saying these are not going to be rentals, and he made sure his staff understood that, and he made sure the consultants knew that when we met with them. So the way that you accomplish that is that you make sure there are restrictions in the deed that says they can't be rentals, and they have to be single, they have to be homes, they have to have a homestead on them and things like that. So that's what we plan to do.
Hi, Councilman.
Hi. Just two things. One is just going back to the fire station and some of the noise that happens because of the fire station in your neighborhood. Again, a berm around that with evergreens around it to help buffer noise and to create a wall is something that could be useful around the fire station. And then the other question I had was, Dean mentioned that the square footage would be 6,000 plus for a lot. So are we saying lot size as like 60 by 100? Like how much room will
Councilman,
there be?
I could answer. This is theoretical. Like we're saying 6,000 at a minimum, but if we decide, so far, and I'm not trying to persuade, so far I've been hearing we really like one over the other, and one of the plans more than the others. So then maybe we come back at you all with, okay, this is the one we focused on. We have a few different options on that one as well, and then we see where you are on that. And eventually we're going to have to start breaking ground and start moving forward. But I want to get this right. That's why we're here. I'm not trying to shove anything down your throat. I wanted to develop this for a long time, and I don't want to piss you guys off in the meantime, I promise. That's why we're here. So we're all ears right now. And I'm not trying to be rude, Councilman. So let's say we're saying 6,000 at a minimum. And then let's say we take that gentleman's advice and say, you know what, let's make them bigger lots and more green space. That's something we could do because we own it, right? I just want to get it right, sir. Okay.
The consultant really just looked at our standard for zoning ordinances and just started with the standard, right? Thanks, Mayor. I mean, it really does come down to we can make these sizes however
Yeah, if we could say we want them to be 9,000, Councilman Mark, and we want to have lots like St. John. I mean, obviously you wouldn't make as much property tax revenue doing it that way, but this is all in our hands still.
And we also want to have a goal of making the lots as available to people that want to move there with their families, and we don't want to have huge Briar Ridge sized lots so that it prices people out either. But I think there's a happy medium that can be reached.
Hi.
Hi, Mayor. Thank you for seeing us
Thank you,
today
ma'am.
about our community and together. This means a lot to me too.
Look at this. This is
because I
amazing.
live off of Calumet, and I noticed that on the board is a future development in the blue section. Is
Yes,
that
ma'am.
going to be commercial?
That's one of the things, and that's one
Yeah.
of the things we're talking about, and there's a lot of,
Yeah. Well, I live off of 1622 Calumet,
Mhm.
and our car was parked in front of our house and hit.
Yeah.
And the amount of people that speed on
Yeah.
Calumet
Oh, yeah.
is ridiculous.
Yes,
And
ma'am.
will there be more police patrol?
that'll be as much as there is. I agree, it's fast.
Or put like lanes, line lanes, parking
Well,
lanes?
it's a state highway too, keep in mind. So like, we're not in charge of that as we
Yeah,
are
I know.
in other parts of the city where we reduce the speed by reducing
But
lanes.
the amount of
No, I'm not disagreeing with you.
residential, our car parked on the street got
Mhm.
There's
got
barely any
hit.
striping on the road even at that. Would there be any improvement to Calumet at that? Maybe doesn't.
State highway, sir. Yeah, I mean, I reached out to the traffic engineer regularly. This is their painting season, and so they'll be restriping Calumet sometime before the fall.
And
Something that divide where we have residential parking along
But
that.
sir, we don't.
Make it a 3-lane road. I understand that you're not totally responsible
Not
about it,
responsible at all.
but I'm sure you could lobby more towards
We
that.
could, no doubt about it. We could, and we're willing to follow this up tomorrow with talking about striping is out of control, talking about the speeds out of control. Chief of police is in the front row, which doesn't hurt, right? So I'm not blowing you off, sir, but to say, hey, you want to go down to 3 lanes or something, that's completely out of our control. Like that's, now, I want to point out, let's say if we did in the future decide that townhomes were going to go between 122nd and the new firehouse, they would not be parking on Calumet. I promise you that. They would be coming from behind, you know, some type of alley type of situation where you pull behind it into your driveway, so to speak. So, but I agree with you on the speed on Calumet. It's fast, and the striping. Yes, ma'am. I'm sorry.
He will sit there waiting 15, 20 minutes.
Oh, yeah.
Until it's clear and there's no traffic control.
Yep.
So I'm worried
And I
about
know the bridge that we built is too far south for your son to go all the way south to go to Franklin. So, thank you. I appreciate you bringing it up. Hi.
Hey, Mayor, nice to see you again.
Thank you, you too.
For all of you guys in the room, I wanted to play off of what Phil Talon said and a few other people. For those of you who don't know me, my name is Eric Holzman. I'm a real estate broker owner and a builder and a contractor here in Hammond. Started my real estate career or investment opportunities in Hammond. I love the city of Hammond. And homes and single family homes is probably the #1 desiring thing is size. My brokerage sells probably more homes in Hammond than anyone. There's a lot of other good brokers in this room too. I see Chris in the back, but the #1 thing that my agents, myself sees for sellers is they want to move out because they don't have enough room. And the College Bound program is huge. I'm building new constructions in Hammond and infill lots. I've worked with the mayor's office and the zoning department on getting zoning variances through and doing really well. And the huge thing that I noticed was I was expecting an Illinois buyer. I think everyone was. I built a 4-bedroom, 3-bath home on an infill lot. That is probably the largest home in that neighborhood in the infill lot, and I expected for sure at that price point we'd have an Illinois buyer. We didn't. I had multiple offers, and it was a current Hammond resident, current Hammond city worker that was looking in Munster, Highland, St. John because he was having a baby on the way and didn't have enough space, and instead he bought and stayed in Hammond.
Right.
So I do think that single-family homes bigger is a huge desire, and in the Robertsdale area, I do infill lots, there is none. Right? Like the city's done a great job turning a ton of them into green space, so I think there is a need for bigger housing stock or larger single-family housing stock in Hammond.
Thanks for your input. I appreciate it. We're trying to get everywhere. So, hi, sir.
Hello, Mayor. My name is Steve.
Hey, Steve.
Couple things.
Yes, sir.
One is the current minimum lot size for new housing in Hammond. For R1, it's actually 7,500 square feet. If it's R1U, it's smaller, but R1 is 75. I happen to know that because I was reading that. Anyway.
I don't know that, but I have people that do, I promise. So.
I definitely prefer the option 1, but the one thing I noticed about 2 and 3 is they kind of favor, for the views, at least from back here and the way, but it seems to favor for the views of the lake to the multi-units rather than single family, which seems a little backwards to me. Just an observation.
Mm-hmm.
And then lastly is, as some others have mentioned, I know this meeting isn't really about the blue area, but I live right by Wolf Lake, and I really don't believe we need more commercial space.
Okay, I appreciate it. Where do you live by Wolf Lake, sir? Do you live in Water Gardens or?
Water Gardens.
Yeah,
Well,
I appreciate
actually,
it.
we're now in Williams.
Hey, I'm not sold on that. I'll be honest with you. You know, this is great feedback I'm getting. I really appreciate the feedback. This is helping me with my job. And it's a tough job to be your mayor because I have to represent everybody and try to make the best decision for everybody, and that's what we're trying to do. I appreciate your input, sir.
Hi, Tom.
Hi.
With
Hi.
a little bit I know, with a little bit I know, I'd have to say option 1. But with a lot of the new homes we see now, you don't have much backyard. Like if somebody wanted to put in a pool, will these new homes have big yards?
Great question. Nobody wants to answer. We're all like,
It's really just about how you design your house, right? I mean, you have a certain amount of space. Your developer or builder will help you in that regard. Oh, you want a bigger backyard. Oh, you want to have your house situated this way in the lot. That's the exciting thing about building a new home. If you talk to any new home builder, they'll tell you, what do you want? Let's see how we can accomplish that.
Hi, Mayor. Hi,
Hey,
Kevin.
Chris.
Hi, everybody. I'm an agent also in Hammond. I'm a lifelong resident. I know Eric. I just want to piggyback on what he said. People say that there's not enough houses, and I agree. Mainly, people are like, "Oh, who's going to pay that kind of money?" I just want people to know that there's a $600,000 sale in Hammond. There's a 479, 401. So there's people willing to spend the money to live in Hammond, and we need more.
Yes, sir.
I mean, that's our biggest, like, people keep asking.
Thank you, Chris. I appreciate it. Good. Okay. Hi, sir.
Hey, Mayor, it's Nathan Reeder.
Hey, Nathan. I couldn't see you back
The brokers
there.
are all chiming in, so
I love it. Thank you. I appreciate it.
I know everybody's heard the news that interest rates jumped up a percentage point in the past couple weeks, kind of unprecedented. Went a little back down a little bit today, but it's like 5.8. But 6% interest rates for a $400,000 home that Eric's been building the last 2 years, which are beautiful and have sold like hotcakes. The price is going up about $700 a month for a buyer. So it's going to reduce the number of buyers available. At a $250,000 price range, it's going to increase the price about $400 a month for a buyer, putting 3.5% down like we see in Hammond. But Hammond's always been driven by 18 to 35-year-olds, the demographic that has chosen Hammond for a starter home. Obviously, looking at the room today, a lot of people have stayed longer than 18 to 35, but most people will move out and move south to a new construction home in South County once they're 35 or older. The issue I'm seeing is that the home values in Hammond have skyrocketed such where it's nearly no longer affordable for people to live here. And affordability across the country is one of the biggest issues that we see. And because of that, the reason for that is the lack of supply of homes available at any price point, mainly at the affordable price point. So I don't really think that any of the three plans are most beneficial to the future of the city of Hammond that my daughter is going to enjoy as a fourth generation Hammond resident.
Okay. Thank you. Hi.
Hi there, everyone. My name is Kat. I'm a broker too, of course. I got to get my piece. But you know, I guess you could actually say I'm the poster child for kind of discovering Whiting. I grew up in Porter County. I got a job in downtown Chicago, and I'm like, wow, this is such a cute, like, loving little town, right by the city. And I was fortunate enough to be able to find kind of like a duplex situation. And what I am finding in that target demographic that you're discussing of 18 to 35-year-olds is they're not, if there's any kind of like more plans for duplexes or something like that, but they're not into the big like because then it just feels like an elevated apartment, or at least with my buyers, they don't want that. And we've had to move elsewhere, like they've said, to get the amount of square footage and luxury finishes that they're looking for. So that's my 2 cents, and I absolutely love what the city is turning into, and I think it's very exciting. Thank you.
Oh, you're sweet. Thank you. I appreciate it. Great input. Okay. Councilman's got another issue. Do me a favor. If we ask her another question, can you please make it on the other side of the room? I like watching her run back and forth.
Thank you.
It's like you're back there, and then Councilman Mark's got a question. And hi, Councilman.
For the person who buys a lot, will they be allowed to choose their own builder?
The answer to that is yes.
So in the one project we didn't have, Councilman, because we were doing the project, so we built the house, we had the builder do it, we'd flip the house, and then the same builder would start house number 2. But in this case, like Dedlow Parkway, you bid on the lot, that becomes your lot, and as long as you meet certain standards, you do it yourself. Thank you for the question. Same neighborhood this time. Hi, sir.
Hi. I'm on the east side of George Lake on New York Avenue.
Yes, sir.
And first of all, I want to thank you for the different ways you made this announcement for this meeting.
Thank you.
Really appreciate it.
Turned out all right, huh? You got a good
did.
crowd.
It started.
You scared us at Mayor's Night, so we got to work.
Yeah, I was going to say, it started the day after the Mayor's Night.
Yeah, you're like, that's why we do Mayor's Night.
Okay. My question has to do with George Lake.
Mm-hmm.
And unfortunately, you have a track record on the south side of George Lake. You fenced in the lake. You made very natural resources restricted for public access.
I did?
We used to have.
I did?
Well, you're
My
taking credit for
predecessor.
several.
I took over it.
We used to have nature paths.
Okay,
Nature
but I
paths
didn't
can
make that
always-
decision. I'm not saying it was a bad decision.
Nature paths can always be recreated, So my question has to do with this development
Yes, sir.
and how you're thinking George Lake will change on this. That's the first part of the question. Whether you're going to, make it more entertainment, put a pier out there, I don't know what. But on the east side of George Lake, you're in talks with Polygon for them to relocate. So again, what are you planning on doing in that area, and how will the lake be affected?
Okay, we had talks. In talks is mischaracterization, and we talked, there was some discussion about it. They seemed open-minded, we seemed open-minded to finding another location in the city, which is easier said than done because Hammond's landlocked, and the real estate that we do have available is expensive at this point. So, but I would like to see a Polygon relocated, ideally within the city of Hammond, and I would be interested in converting that to a green space, like a natural area, right next to the college, right next to the golf course. Polygon was there, it was appropriate when they came there, and then times changed, and they're the last of the neighbors in that neighborhood. I would like to see that turned into a green space. Personally, keep in mind that's expensive, because if Polygon was going to be relocated, I imagine the city of Hammond's going to put a large part of that bill to relocate them, and then we would be writing off any property taxes, and we do get property taxes from Polygon right now. I'm not saying it's a bad idea, I'm just saying financially there are negatives with it, okay?
And the north side, what?
The North Basin?
Yeah, the north side, how will this development affect the north side?
I think it'll be busier on the bike trail. I think that we'd have better connections. You have a good connection to the bike trail from right there. I think it'll be busier, and it's busy already.
Sometimes the lake stinks.
Yeah, I mean, there are weird smells all over our city. This is one part of the city that has strange smells, I agree. I come out of my front door where I live, and I live by Purdue. It smells like chemicals sometimes when I walk out. It's like, welcome to Hammond.
I'm just thinking that the residents will make a big fuss about it, and then the city's gonna have to do something with the lake.
I would love to do something with the North Basin of George Lake, sir. Being honest, and we've talked about it in this administration, is when I first took over and I was your junior mayor, there was a project that was in the works when I took over. Ron and I were both part of this, where we drained the North Basin of Wolf Lake. When I say we, it was the federal government that did that, right, Ron? And the federal government made a decision to excavate all the land around Polygon, going out into the lake, and they literally just did it right around Polygon. Then they filled the lake back up, it looks beautiful, right? But quite frankly, if we wanted to do it the right way, we should have drained the lake and excavated the whole lake. I apologize, I was a brand new mayor at the time when that happened. I think now if that happens, when I've been mayor for as long as I have, there's no way I would have let them just do part of the job, which is what they did. So we've talked about it. Ron and I have had this discussion about how much would it cost just to finish the job and redrain that lake and make it safe so that we could, that's a gorgeous lake. It's big, it's beautiful, there's tons of wildlife. I'd love to see that get cleaned up, sir.
Yeah, but Calumet College tried to sandblast or take the sand out of the lake. And I thought that was going to be destroying the environment when they did that. And again, it was our mayor,
You're saying something I don't know anything about.
Yes, they were going to get.
Talking about the Save George Lake fight, which I know since I was the founder of the group, but.
I was on a submarine then.
That was 1970.
I missed that story.
That was 1975.
Oh, I wasn't on a submarine then. Yeah, I was 6.
We want to make everybody happy in this room, move Polygon out of there.
I agree. Thank you. There's about 100 Hammond residents, 100 people that work there, obviously, and it's a taxpayer. And I'm not saying it's a bad idea, I'm just being honest. Okay, I'm your mayor, this is the ramifications. It would cost us money to move them. I'm not saying it's impossible, but it would. We'd have to find another location for them, or we'd just have to buy them out at their current location. I think they'd be open-minded, but I don't think we're gonna get something like that done for under, I'm just throwing numbers out there, $10 million? To relocate them? They'd have to literally leave their location and buy new equipment and buy new land, and I don't know how much that costs, but it's not super cheap. So anyway, I'm just throwing it out there. I'm not, believe me, I would love to see the same thing. That is totally out of place where it is. We built $50 million worth of improvements around Polygon, and Polygon's the last neighbor in that neighborhood right now. And I have to say though, the meeting I had, I thought it was real positive. I thought The CEO was a gentleman. We had good discussions. You know, but that doesn't mean that we're not going to look the other way if we have problems with pellets in the lake again. And I appreciate the vigilant residents that are out there looking all the time. I do. I may not love it when I get that text, but I do. We follow it up every single time, and I appreciate it. We have officers on the ground watching for this, and Polly John knows it too. So
Might look good near Lear.
That might actually work. That's a location. We do, and we put Lear down there, and that was a tough environmental job also. And Lear went in, and I remember when they broke ground, the smell of gas was strong, and you know they didn't shut the job down, and now they're there. So that's a great idea, Councilman. Something we'll look into.
This is not my question. I was asked to ask Phil why he's not advocating green space in Knickerbocker and also Bering.
Why does you can ask me that? Why is what does Phil have? I want green space. Don't blame Phil. I want to see this developed.
Property taxes.
Why aren't you advocating for green space? And by the way,
Development of green space.
why are we not building houses? Okay, yeah. Okay.
Yeah, I think what he's referring to is I had spoken at some meetings probably throughout my 15-year career with the city where I talked about how we may look at places that we can create new tax dollars to help lessen the burden on everybody in this room. But I love green space. You know, I'm on the south side of Hammond, and they're building a new train station right by my house. And I know the train station's going to be a great project. I know it's connecting us closer to Chicago. I know it's going to increase the value of my home. But I also am a little upset that they're taking away some of my green space. So I'm not any different than anybody in this room. Like I said, it's a balance. You got to do the best you can. It's, you know, people that are working on behalf of the city to make the best decisions you can. So I hope that answers the question.
It's all right. We can move on. It's fine. You could argue with Phil after, sir, okay? And Phil's not going to put anything on Knickerbocker Parkway. That's what we were talking about. And quite frankly, I'm pretty rough on my own neighborhood. I found out there was a speed limit 15-mile-an-hour sign. I figured because I ride faster on my bike on the parkway than 15 miles an hour, we should take it down. And my neighbors weren't crazy about it. We took it down because it wasn't properly approved. So I don't look for anything different in my neighborhood than any other neighborhood in the city. Yes, all right, hi.
Hi, a couple questions. I think I missed the answer to this. So the new development of the streets will be two-way, not one-way, correct?
That's where we are right
Also,
now.
will there be access to Calumet Avenue from this new development?
Yes.
And if so, will there be a four-way stoplight? Because there's a stoplight at 117th, 119th, 121st. If you put a intersection at 123rd, there needs to be a stoplight to control traffic so people can
Yeah, there probably will be.
safely. Also, if these homes are built, if there's basements, will there be sump pumps removing that much cubic yardage of dirt between two bodies
Yeah.
of water? Will my property on 122nd and Davis then flood? And also, I'm going to poke the bear with Festival Lakes. This is where you park all your concert goers.
True
Where will they go, or
we have
will
parking. We have parking available still, south.
south? But
Right.
that also filled the soccer field, filled the
Right.
football field, the parking lot. Filled 3 nights last year, and people were circling up and down Calumet and trying to get into the residential
Right.
area.
Right.
So if you take away this parking space for this fest, will it be downsized and we won't have big name artists playing then? Will we downsize this so we can
Probably not.
accommodate? And also Provi Fest parks there on that
Mhm.
space. So what are we going to do to accommodate these fests that you advocate for the city all the time? If you're taking all this parking and stuff, will we do away with it?
We'll deal with those problems down the road if we decide to go forward with this, ma'am. But I appreciate the questions. And as far as sump pumps and stuff like that, I guess it would depend on if you have a full basement and. Okay. Well, it sounds like we're going to shoot that area tomorrow.
Here, so.
Okay. Thank you. Hi, Diane.
Hello again. I just had a question, and this goes with the fire station. Somebody had asked me if I knew, and obviously I don't. Because it's going to be moved down and it's going to be closer to 125th, is there going to be some kind of a control with the lights at 125th, and then a control So
Yes,
cars coming north stop on the other side?
yes, that's in
Okay.
design, yep.
Okay, thanks.
I think we're going to start wrapping up after this question, if you guys don't mind.
Mayor,
Okay.
is there going to be a comment period, like a certain time frame for people to get their comments in? And is there going to be an address for people to make their comments that's just on this particular Clark Field?
Well, if it was,
Because right now, I don't know what's going to happen. You know, you've had this discussion.
well, we're here commenting
But
and
there
talking.
but people are going to be watching the video, and they're going to be thinking and
You know, ma'am, I
thinking
mean,
about
I
it.
appreciate.
Okay.
Like, the hard thing about being mayor is, if I waited for 15,000 opinions every time I made a decision, I would never get anything done. So at a certain point, I got to pull the trigger on what I think is the best option for the city, and the ramifications are, I'm on the ballot next year. I mean, unless I'm in the U.S. Senate, I'm on the ballot next year. And if I'm on the ballot next year and I make a bad decision, I know for a fact the Hammond residents will let me know about that. And that's what keeps me awake at night, is trying to represent 81,000 people is a difficult thing to do. And if we did do a survey like we've done with other parts of the city, it would be limited to Hammond residents only. And I don't know if that would make everybody in this room happy, because, so. And I've taken criticism on that before as well. Why didn't you talk to me? It's because you live in another city, and I need to know what my residents think. Well, I use that shortcut, and you didn't send something to me. I get hired by the residents of Hammond. Councilman Mark. Hi.
So next steps would be another community meeting.
I wanted to ask, if you don't mind, could we go back to that in a second? I want to ask you just to vote once. I'm not going to check everybody. And the simple vote, and you could be under 18, just raise your hand, okay? Try to vote only once. If you like two of them, vote twice. Do me a favor, don't vote for all three, okay? So I'm going to start backwards at option number 3. That option number 3, as a reminder, is the one with the cluster homes. It's the one to your far right. All right, if you like option number 3, the one with the cluster homes, can you please raise your hand now? All right. I'm not going to say how many there was. For those at home, let's just say we're going to go to option number 2 next. Okay, option number 2 is similar to option number 3. This one has townhomes built into it. Future development still bare. If you like option number 2, can you please raise your hand? Okay. Now, either a lot of people aren't going to vote, or option number 1 seems to be the one that people are keying in on. If you like option number 1, which is 100% single-family homes, it's 30 lots in this proposal, but this is where we start the discussion. If you like option number 1, can you please raise your hand now? All right, I'm no mathematician, but I think option number 1's got the majority of the people in this room. And I'm not trying to disrespect anybody with option 2 or option 3, and I'm keeping in mind the gentleman's recommendation that just because this is the one we voted on doesn't mean everybody loves this one the best. So now I think the best step to take at this point is to massage this out a little bit more, and I'm going to rely on the guys at Abbott Marsh to flesh out option number 1 a little bit more, and then we could decide the next steps. Councilman Mark, does that seem fair? Does that seem fair, group? Yeah, thank you. Can we wrap up with 2 more? I know this gentleman has an issue, and then there's a guy in the back. And those are the last 2 we're going to take, okay?
Half hour.
That's all right. We've done a pretty good job, sir. All right. And yes, sir.
Okay, I've been a 50-year resident.
Thank you.
Owned a home in Robertsdale.
Thank you, sir.
All these homes would be built that have a 10% tax break on that 10-year tax break. That's going to cost you money. Calumet Avenue is in worse shape now than it was when the state rebuilt it. It's falling apart. You'll see it when you drive home.
I drive all the time on
And
Calumet
it's
Avenue.
terrible because they did a horrible job doing it. And how about let's put some low-income housing in this neighborhood, or else turn that into a forest, or dig it out and make it another lake.
So I take it you didn't vote for any of the 3.
And then another one, the electric company you got down at the end of Wolf Lake Park.
Yes, sir.
Why are they still there?
Because they didn't move.
That's 5 questions.
I appreciate your questions. Because they're so far south, we could live with that. My goal originally, sir, was 129th North was going to be a green space. We've done pretty well. I agree that that would be ideal if we can get them out of there and we'd have the whole lot. That would be ideal. And if we ever have that opportunity, I promise as your mayor, I'll be all over that, sir, okay?
I love the park.
I do too, thank you. I appreciate that. Yes, ma'am. Hi, sir.
And Mayor, I just want to clarify, because I know you're going to be running for Senate, and I really hope you win, because I
Thank
think
you.
we need you in Washington, D.C., because things are so screwed up in this country right now.
Thank you very much.
Mayor, but the reason I said that I think that none of those options are the best for my daughter, who's going to be a fourth-generation resident of the city of Hammond, is Jeff. You mentioned Jeff Speck, the national renowned expert that designed the plan for downtown Hammond, and we're building how many apartment buildings, how many units down there?
There's 2 that have been committed, the Bank Calumet building and across the street from...
Jeff Speck's idea was to add about 1,000 residential units, most of those being apartment buildings, though, correct?
True. Downtown, right.
And the reason for that is because downtown Hammond's been dead. When St. Margaret's leaving, it's going to be even worse, and the commercial spaces don't get filled. And I'm hearing that same respect here, that the commercial spaces up and down Calumet Avenue are horse crap. Even though if you go over by Walmart, there's not much there. It's just a Midwest Express clinic and a bunch of junk. What Jeff Speck says is the idea now, and there's an economist from Ball State, Michael Hicks, that says that too, is the idea is not to bring jobs here like Polygon, like it was 50 years ago, to attract people to Whiting. What you need to do is build housing here to attract people to Whiting. There's people making $70,000, $80,000, $90,000 a year working in downtown Chicago that would love to rent a $1,000 apartment and have views of a lake and 25-minute drive to downtown Chicago still. We could fill that place up. You're going to bring 1,000 people here. That's going to load up with new restaurants and shops and whatnot down Calumet Avenue. Is the Ileana Hotel, that site, the building was for sale for $10 million after it was built. Is that a problem for the community, that building? The Ileana Hotel in Whiting on 119th Street and Indianapolis Boulevard. It's I think it's a 20-unit apartment building. Is that a problem for the community?
No, it's positive.
Actually, Nathan, there have been a number of problems there.
Well, with the kids?
And one other thing, the city of Hammond owns an
Hey.
entire block along
Yeah.
Indianapolis Boulevard if they want commercial space.
Yeah.
It's all from Myrtle to Roberts, so. That's right.
I agree. It should be going up and down Indianapolis Boulevard and Calumet Avenue, and right by the train station that's going in. We need to be building more housing. Because our city's been losing thousands of people every 10 years. And if we wanted to grow again, we have to find places to build housing.
If you want to add 30 families to the city, then this is a great idea. But if you want to add 500 people to the city, this is the only way to do it. Because it's not going to grow. We've been tearing down, 100 houses a year? I know we were about 10 years ago. We're eliminating the single-family homes. We're building on what were used to be 2 homes, 1 big home for $400,000. We could have, I don't know. I just completely disagree with this. But I don't live in Robertsdale, so you guys choose for your area what you want. But I just think overall, in the grand scheme of things, if the national media got a hold of this plan, it would be ridiculed.
Okay. Well, 99% of the people in this room feel the same way about option number 1. All right, that was interesting. I want to say thank you to everybody who participated today. Again, thank you to the host councilman, Mark Owinski, for hosting. We appreciate it very much. We had 3 great proposals. I think what we're going to do is flesh out number 1 and be back in contact, because, like I said, my goal in life is not to piss everybody in Robertsdale off. I want to do a positive addition to your community that's going to bring people to our city, to invest in our city, and to live in our city. So thank you all very much for coming out to, not Mayor's Night Out, but the community meeting in Robertsdale. I appreciate it, and I will see you all soon. Thank you.